Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Hello everyone, and welcome to Wealth Pathways, the Affluence Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm your host, Marie Stella, coming to your ears from Nam, Melbourne, Australia. Let's learn together.
In today's digital age, social media isn't just a place to scroll. It's a powerful tool for building a personal brand and generating real income. But how exactly does one go from posting content to securing brand deals or selling digital products? What are the foundational habits, common pitfalls, and smart strategies that set successful digital creators apart? Joining us today is Jamal Abarashi, a business lecturer and PhD holder with a background in management and marketing. And he's here to dive into today's topic, how to leverage social media for personal branding and income generation. Welcome to the show, Jamal.
Hi, Sabrina. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's lovely having you here. Can you tell us about your background and what compelled you in pursuing business and getting your doctorate?
Right. Yeah, sure. Basically, my background is I started with literature. So I went to uni studying English literature, which is quite different from what I ended up in doing. And so I found the world of business quite interesting, especially when it comes to like consumers and how they consume, how they actually make decisions. So I started to change my field and studied MBA. And then after that, I was quite fascinated with being in academia and doing research and also being engaged with students and teaching and delivering your knowledge to them. And that's why I ended up doing my PhD and being a university lecturer in marketing and management field.
That's an interesting pivot, starting from English literature to someone who is teaching business and marketing. And what are some common misconceptions about digital marketing and social media, especially when it's a key determinant in making money nowadays?
Right. Yeah. So I think one of the misconception is for making money or to be successful in social media, you need to have a huge number of followers. This is something that people believe it's the key to be successful. But I think having a huge number of followers, of course, is important, but it's not the main key to success. You can be popular and successful even with a small number of followers. I'm sure you have heard about the term micro influencers. So
Yes.
basically, they have a small cohort or number of followers. Let's say probably something between 2,000 to 5,000, and they still make money. They still are quite successful in terms of being an influencer. So yeah, so you don't really need to have a huge number of subscribers or followers to be successful. With a small number of followers, you can be successful if you actually engage with them properly and have a loyal kind of fan base for yourself. And the other misconception is I usually hear it from some friends that they say, okay, if you want to be successful, you need to keep posting. You need to actually keep posting contents and videos on
That's
social
right.
media, and then that eventually makes you like popular and successful. And again, I think it's important to be consistent. It's important to create content and consistently post that content on social media. But for just posting contents doesn't make anyone's successful. I think consistency in terms of posting content is important, but you need to actually have a clear strategy about what you are going to achieve. You need to have a clear idea about who your audience is, how you're going to reach to them, how you're going to engage them. So those things are also important.
I see. So a lot of people would have the misconception of just uploading every single day on what it is without understanding their clear goal. And that would not reach to level of monetization and a good personal branding on who they are. And before we dive further into this topic, which is I find very interesting, we have this segment to get to know you better, Jamal. So
Mhm.
this is Have You Met Jamal? Okay, so first and foremost, what is your favorite book?
Okay. At the top of my mind, I have Frankenstein, which I read this book like a long time ago, and I was so fascinated with the storyline and things that happens, and it's quite resonating with our current situation, like with inventing of like AI and new technologies, and people are thinking about like talking about like what's the end of these technologies? Is Are we creating something that we cannot control?
Hmm.
So yeah, Frankenstein is my favorite book. Although I read this book like years ago, still I feel it's very relevant, and I feel like I should go back and read it again.
Yeah, Frankenstein. That's an interesting one since you were an English literature student, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
I see. And next question is what movie have you enjoyed recently?
Right. To be honest, it's very difficult to find good movies to watch these days, or at least I am picky. I always look at the movie ratings, like if it's, IMDb rating. If its IMDb
Ah,
rating is not anything
quite
above
high.
6.5. Yeah, so
Okay.
I feel like no, I'm not interested. But I can tell you about an interesting TV series that I watched, a series that I watched recently.
Sure.
It was Queen of the South,
Oh,
which is on Netflix. I found it very engaging, and very interesting show to watch.
okay. That's very interesting. I haven't heard of that one, so I'll go check that out when I get home. And are you listening to any podcasts at the moment?
No, unfortunately, I'm not listening to any podcast. I have a friend that actually is very active in making podcasts in a couple of languages. So he's Persian. So his podcast is a mix of,
Oh,
so he broadcasts this podcast in Persian and English. And he talks about different things like culture, food. I will engage with that podcast sometimes, but at the moment, I'm not engaged with any podcast.
I see. And next question would be do you have a role model?
Um, I have, well, uh, in terms of the role model, I feel like I found it very difficult to actually find someone and stick to that specific person. I feel like
Hmm.
there are lots of things that you can actually learn from different people. Like, for example, when it comes to creativity or thinking out of the box, I think I would say my role model is Elon Musk.
Oh,
With creative, out of the box kind of projects. So yeah, it depends on mm, like what I'm looking for. So I would say I consider different people for different things. Like for example, for
mm,
creativity and like for thinking out of the box, I think Elon Musk is my role model.
I see. So you have quite a good amount of role models for different aspects in life, and I
Different
find that quite
aspects.
interesting. Yeah, I
Exactly.
find that interesting. And is there a course that has inspired you so far throughout your academia journey?
Yes. So basically, it's not a course, but I would call it a phenomenon.
Oh,
Um, it's minimalism. So I was quite interested about minimalism, the lifestyle, their values, and one of my research project was based on what started with minimalism and
yeah.
diverted into home organization practices. Um,
Interesting.
but I found minimalism quite interesting phenomenon. It's kind of a lifestyle that brings into that actually engage. It consists of different values, a mix of different values, different ways of doing things, and so I found minimalism quite an interesting and engaging phenomenon.
I see. An interesting topic indeed. Now, let's dive into our topic of today, which is social media for personal branding and income generation. So, in introducing the topic, right, we have our first question, which is how would you define affluence?
Right. Interesting question. So when we think about affluence, we also like automatically we think about wealth and money. So affluence is linked to being rich,
Yeah.
have lots of money, wealth, right? But I think I personally think beyond defining or limiting affluence to just wealth. I think for me, affluence is linked to three things. Affluence is about having resources, which money is an important resource, having influence, and which also can come with money. So when you have money, you can actually impact or influence other people. So other people, so influence is also coming based on the resources that you have. And the other thing that I think is very important and should be considered in when we define affluence is time. So you may have lots of resources, but if you don't have time to actually pursue your ideal lifestyle, then I struggle to define that person as affluent.
Mm, I see.
So yeah, for me, affluence is related to having resources, having influence or power to influence other people, um, impact other people, and also time.
I see. So, wealth, power, impact, and having the time and putting the time to building that. And
Yeah,
secondarily, how would you define digital marketing?
right. So digital marketing is strategic use of digital channels. For
Mm,
example, email, websites, social media. So digital marketing is about strategic use of these digital channels in order to um, kind of creating or promoting services, brands, products. So social media is digital marketing is the way that brands or companies integrate these different digital channels to promote their service, to promote their brand, to promote their products.
I see. And since we are talking about social media, how would you describe the role of social media in digital marketing?
In digital marketing? Well, social media is an important element of digital marketing. So
Hmm.
when we talk about digital marketing, social media is an important, very important aspect of digital marketing. So why it's important? Social media is important because it creates or provides a platform where consumers can actually come together. They can actually share their experiences. They can actually feedback on the products that they have been using, the services. They can actually share their consumption experiences. They can learn from each other. So social media provide this space, this digital space for consumers to
Mm,
get together, to learn from each other, and to build upon their experience shopping, consumption experiences. Also, the social
Mm.
media is an important element of digital marketing because it's not just a space for consumers to come together and form communities. We can actually have brands, companies also being a very kind of important participant of this in this space. So social media is again a platform that brings consumers and businesses together, so they can actually interact, they can engage, they can actually um, communicate, and that's kind of very important tool for businesses to use to expand their brand, to create brand awareness, to engage with their audience, with their customers. That's why social media is quite an integral, important element in digital marketing.
Indeed, it is an integral role, especially in businesses. But on an individual level, what is personal branding?
Right. So personal branding is the way that people try to craft their public identity. So basically, personal
Mm,
branding is about who you want to be, and how you want other people to perceive you. So when it comes to personal branding, I usually narrow it down to three questions. So the first question is, who are you? The
mm,
second question is, what do you want to be known for? Like, how do you want other people perceive you? And the third question, that actually answering this question, kind of helping people to understand what is personal branding. This question is, how do you want people to feel about you when they engage with you or when they come across the content that you have created? So basically, putting things together, personal branding is the way that people shape their public identity or personality and project it to the world, to their audience.
I see. And what role does it play in of personal branding in having a successful social media presence?
Right. So personal branding is like reputation, right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about digital marketing, when specifically when we think about social media, there are lots of people on social media. So there are lots of people, there are lots of products, there are lots of companies, and all of them are actually competing for attention. All of them are competing for audience, for followers. So without personal branding, um, you cannot compete, or you cannot
Mm,
actually be noticed in this crowded environment, right? So I would say personal branding is quite essential in order to be successful in social media, because people may have like specific knowledge, people may have like expertise, people may come up with content that is quite useful for people, but without having a strong brand, that set of skills, that expertise, that knowledge will not be noticed. So
mm,
you need to actually have that personal branding in place and shape it in order to be noticed and be successful.
I see. So, in a way, it's important for us to have personal branding, especially when we offer services, to build credibility and to build uh, presence in a way that can build people's trust towards what we are offering.
Exactly, exactly. So as you said, trust is quite important, and personal branding is actually creating that trust between you and your target audience, right? So without personal branding, the trust is missing, and when the trust is not there, people are not considering you. People are not paying attention to what you say or the content that you create. So yes, so personal branding is quite essential in creating that trust and reputation for people on social media, and and with that trust, you can actually differentiate yourself from the crowd. So without personal branding, people struggle to be seen, to differentiate themselves from lots of thousands of others who are actually competing for the audience attention.
Indeed. And what should someone or a business with little to no social media presence or recognizable personal brand do to start building a personal brand from scratch?
Very good questions. So with personal branding, I would say personal branding is not a step; it's a
Mm,
process. So, and similar to reputation, right? So personal um, branding doesn't happen overnight. So
mm,
people should actually look at personal branding as a process. They need to be patient. They need to actually um, kind of give it times to evolve and be shaped. Saying that, so for people who actually don't have a personal brand or they are keen to have or form a strong personal brand, I would recommend to actually they should know about who they want to be. They should know what kind of personality they want to shape. They need to have it very clear. So if, for example, if you're a coach advising people on like how they can actually have a healthy life, right? So you need to be very clear about, okay, what kind of personality you want to create, who
mhm,
you want your audience to actually how you want your audience to perceive you, or feel about you. So that's an essential step. So they need to actually know what kind of personality they want to shape. That's
mhm,
the most important step. Um, the other thing is who you want to actually reach, like who is your audience. So if you think that you can actually impact everyone, your audience
mm,
is basically everyone, that's kind of a mistake, right? So you
mhm,
need to actually have this very clear in your mind who you want to target, who are the main group of people that can resonate with what you say, can actually connect with what you do. So I would say the second important step in order to actually create a personal brand is to actually have a clear idea about who you are targeting, who is your target audience.
I see.
Um, the next one is choosing the right platform. So that's
Oh,
quite important. For creating a personal brand, you need to actually start small. You shouldn't jump or actually be everywhere. You need to actually
ah,
carefully choose the platform that kind of resonate with what you say, what you do, and also your target audience. All right. So basically, based on what you do and what you say and who your target audience is, you need to decide on your platform. So choosing the right platform also is very important, very critical in creating a strong uh, personal brand.
that's
Um,
very intriguing. Yeah.
the other thing that I would say is quite important is consistency. So after you choose the right media or platform, you need to be consistent in terms of creating content and posting it. So if you create content, for example, some videos, and post them once in a while, you are not going to actually, you will not be successful in creating that personal brand. So you need to be consistent, like um, post at least twice or three times a week, be consistent. And that consistency is an important element in creating a strong personal brand. Um, Another important factor in creating a strong personal brand is engagement. So
Ah,
you need to engage with your audience, right? So if you're using like YouTube as a platform and you post a video, right, you definitely or most likely will get some comments under your video, and engage with those comments, address those comments. Um, so this two-way communication with your audience actually help you to form that trust, and this actually eventually help you to create a strong personal brand. Um, Another thing that is quite important in forming personal brand is join a relevant online community. That helps a lot with creating a strong brand, personal brand. So identify the communities that kind of resonate with what you say, what you do, and enter into those communities and try to engage with those communities also help with creating strong personal brand.
I see. That was a very clear, concise, and actionable answer to the steps on making a personal branding, starting from self awareness and finding what our identity would be in our personal branding to how which platform we should start on, since we shouldn't start on everything, as you mentioned. And then the next would be we try to understand our audience, our niche, engagement, awareness, and joining communities. That's actually a really great answer. And then I'd like to jump into the next question, and I would like to touch a little bit on having multiple platforms a little bit later because you mentioned that. So, monetization, right? What are the most common mistakes people make when trying to monetize their social media presence after building this personal branding?
Mhm. Right. Very interesting questions. So I would say one of the common mistakes that some people make is they prioritize number of followers over engagement.
Mm,
So this is one of the mistakes. So number of followers, like having a big number of followers is important, it's good, but I think you shouldn't compensate the number of followers over your engagement because, again, in personal branding, creating trust is quite essential, right? So you need to actually prioritize engagement with your audience if you actually want to be successful in in long term. um, the other thing which is quite important and people who don't get it right at the beginning is not having a clear niche, you know.
mm,
So you need to start small and have a very clear niche and focus on that. And with engagement, you can actually come up and form your personal identity and brand and become successful.
I see. So you mentioned two. I'd like to focus on one. And how can we avoid the pitfall of especially focusing on followers rather than engagement?
Um, right. Okay. So, how to avoid this?
Yeah.
Um, I would say you need to, again, I think starting small is quite essential. So when you start small, instead of being everywhere using multiple channels, if you just use one channel and focus on a small niche and work on the engagement, that's kind of help to actually avoid these pitfalls and try to grow slowly but consistently. And over time, you will see how your um, target, you can increase your target audience, you can actually add to the number of your followers, at the same time keeping like you actually keep that consistency in terms of the engagement with your audience and form a strong personal identity.
I see. It's interesting that you're talking about multiple channels because something that I see many new brands or businesses do is try to be active on multiple platforms or
Mhm.
multiple channels at the same time. What are the advantages and disadvantages of this as compared to what you've been mentioning, which is to focus on one platform?
Right. So I think when you start and you're at the early stages of your like forming your personal brand, you need to start small. Um, okay, so there is nothing wrong with actually focusing on multiple channels. Of course, there are some advantages that comes with focusing on multiple channels. For example, if you actually engage with your audience using different channels like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, the advantage of using multiple channels is, you get more visibility. So you actually can reach to a broader target audience. So that is the advantage that comes with focusing or using multiple platforms. Um, Another advantage of using multiple platform is um, if something happens, for example, some of these platforms over time they change their algorithms, they change their
That's true,
policies,
indeed.
right? So if you actually be on multiple platforms, you reduce the risk of being affected by the change of the policies or change of the
Mm,
algorithm that this platform use. So this is the advantage that comes with using or focusing on multiple platforms. However, this has some disadvantages as well, right? So, one of the disadvantages of this is when you focus on multiple channels, you need to actually invest more times and also come up with different strategies because you cannot target different channels with the same strategy, right? So basically, in each platform, you target more and less. Your audience may overlap, but they're also different. So when you target different channels, one of the disadvantages is you need more resources, you need more time and effort to shape your strategy, and it becomes a bit complex. So you cannot use the same content or the same story and broadcast it across different channels. So you need to actually be
mm,
careful not to actually um, sending inconsistent messages as well. That comes with that is an disadvantage of focusing on multiple channels.
I see. That was a very lengthy one, and I feel like it really shows that both of these it's like two sides of a coin. They have their advantages, they have their disadvantages, and having multiple platforms actually diversifies our risks of getting the algorithm or uh, policy changes that can affect someone who is only in a singular platform. And
Mhm.
we did mention about amassing social media followers, right? It's just one hill to climb. And nowadays, it may not be as important as having engagement because followers follow. That is just one hill to climb. And another is actually turning the followers after getting good engagement, after having this set of followers, maybe they're already like a nano or micro influencer, and how they can divert that into a source of income, whether directly or indirectly. So, what are the most common ways people monetize through social media or make money?
Right. Okay. There are a couple of ways to monetize and make money by having a strong social media presence. One is YouTube ads. So basically, if you reach to a certain number of subscribers, you can actually make money through YouTube advertisements. Um, so this is one way that people can monetize their social media presence. Another one is TikTok Creator Fund.
Mm.
So again, based on the views that your content get on TikTok, you can actually earn or generate some income for yourself. Another common way of monetizing your social presence is sponsorship
Mm.
and having a brand deals, right? So uh, this is another way that people can monetize their social presence. And with sponsorship, I would say um, you don't really need to have a huge number of followers because with sponsorship, what is quite important is engagement. And
Mm.
brands wants engagement. Uh, for example, brands would actually consider to have a sponsorship with an influencer if they see that the follower of the influencer and the influencer are quite engaged, because for sponsorship, brands are not looking for creating brand awareness, they want to
Mm.
generate sales. So that is why, when it comes to sponsorship, an important element that influencers should consider is having a strong engagement with their audience. So when brands see that there is a strong and active engagement between the influencer and their audience, even if the number of the followers are quite limited. I think, for example, around 2,000 to 5,000, still that can actually be considered as a source that generates income for people.
I see. So since brands, brand
Mhm,
deals, right, and
mhm.
sponsors would like to generate sales, they don't really look at followers, but look at the engagement of that account, that particular account, to generate this sales, and which means that at any age, at any stage, I mean, of your personal branding or your social media account, you can actually start attracting these brand deals. It doesn't really matter the amount of followers
Exactly,
that you amass.
exactly. Like, for example, if you are like if you kind of a foodie person, and then you actually have um, a number like between 1,000 to 4,000, 5,000 followers that quite engage with you and follow your like post on different foods or different cuisines of you can actually have sponsorship with local cafes or local restaurants, and they
Interesting.
would consider that because you have around 4 5,000 followers and you're quite engaged, and this kind of this could be considered as an start for monetizing your social presence.
I see. So that's actually quite interesting because we people would look at a very specific niche, right? Someone who lives there, someone who's been around. So people would look at that particular, uh, let's say, influencer, right? Whether it's
Mhm,
micro or nano, for a particular place's local cuisine. So that's
mhm,
actually an interesting take. And what are some realistic income expectations for
mhm.
beginners trying to monetize their social media presence?
Um, for beginners, I would say you shouldn't expect much. For example, if you have a follower base of 1 to 5,000, then a real expectation of the income should be like something between 50 to $150 per month.
Oh,
However, when your like the followers base growing and then you hit, for example, 10,000 followers, slightly more, you could expect, your income goes up to 500 to 1,000 per month. And again, like when your follower base and engagement is growing and become bigger, you should expect more. For example, if you have more than 50,000 followers, probably should expect something between 1,000 to 2,000 per month. So this is kind of a realistic um, expectation of how much you can earn based on your number of followers.
I see. So just like as a baseline, because people may have different experiences with that. Um, what are some examples of successful individuals who have leveraged social media to significantly increase their income from what you know?
I have two examples in mind. The first one is Sarah Day. Have you heard about her?
Not quite familiar with Saturday. Can you
So,
tell me more?
yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Sarah Day is a fitness influencer. She is in Australia, actually. And she started by posting videos of, like fitness videos on YouTube. And over time, she turned her YouTube channel into a very thriving, successful business.
Mm,
So she's actually have now fitness programs and promote health products. So Sarah Day is quite an successful example of how you can start small, form your brand personality, and expand it over time. Another example that I have in mind is Jordan Watson.
mm.
He is again a YouTuber in New Zealand, and his YouTube channel is called How to Dad. So basically, it
Dad,
started
as a
by
father.
as a father, yes.
Ah,
So he has a series on YouTube that broadcasting his relationship with his newborn, and he started posting funny, dad and his daughter's relationship, and now I think he has more than 1 million subscribers.
wow.
So this is another successful example of how you can actually build your personal brand um, using social media.
And what marketing lessons can we learn from them?
Right. Okay. So if you look at these two examples, they started small. So
Mm,
again, when it comes to become successful, or when you're actually looking for valuable lesson, start small, and then be patient, because building a strong personal brand is not happening overnight. So you need to, it's like reputation, right? So you need to actually give it time, be consistent, work on it, learn from your mistakes, work on your mistakes, and have actually give it time to grow. So start small, be consistent. And another lesson that I think you can get from these two successful influencers is having a clear audience in mind. So look at them, right? Um, Jordan Watson, right? So Jordan Watson started with targeting parents, right?
mhm.
People who actually are in the same situation with him. So he had a very clear idea of who is trying to reach, who is trying to influence, who is trying to actually connect with, right? So another important lesson that I think that could be drawn from this example is have a very clear audience in mind. So you're not targeting everyone. Identify who resonates more with what you say, with what you do, with the content that you create. I
Mm,
think these are three important lessons that you can take from these two examples.
that's wonderful. And these days, we see lots of social media figures attempting to sell courses, ebooks, memberships, and so on. From what you know, how viable are these types of income streams for the average person, the average Joe who's trying to build personal branding?
Right. I think those are quite viable. And I think, again, the key is creating trust. And that comes through engagement, right? So, again, I don't think influencers need to have a like huge number of followers to actually achieve those streams of income or or figures. Um, they need to have a small, not as small, but I would say it's quite achievable if they know how to engage and they build that trust between themselves and their followers.
I see. So let's talk about, since we talked about monetization and how we can build this, right? Authenticity, right?
Hmm.
It's much more valued nowadays than before,
Hmm.
at least in the social media space. How would you recommend balancing authenticity with professionalism on social media?
Right. So as you said, authenticity is quite important. Is the currency
Mm,
in social media, right? And so basically, creating the balance is about answering this question of how do you stay real while still coming up as a professional, right?
yes,
Um, yeah, so how you can actually maintain that balance? I think you can achieve this through a couple of ways, right? By doing a couple of things. I think the first important thing to do in order to actually have this balance is be transparent about your journey, right? So, yes, when you think about being professional, professional is coming with perfectionism, right? So, as a professional, you want to actually always talk about positive things, good things that happen to you, amazing outcomes, right? Um, but we all know that that's not real. That's not like in the real life, no one is perfect, right? So no outcome could be perfect. So, in order to balance these two, I would say people should consider being transparent about their journey. So, sharing about the mistakes that not the mistake but the challenges, right, that they face, the ups and downs of their journey. So if um, people share, being transparent about their journey and share the ups and downs with their audience, this actually help them to still remain as professional, but the content that they actually create and broadcast also will be authentic.
I see. And nowadays, with the rise of artificial intelligence, there
Mhm.
are accounts that are automated and people who utilize it as a tool to boost their social media presence. How does it affect the role of personal branding in social media and income generation?
Very interesting and timely question. So basically, we all know that AI has made things happen faster, right? So, for example, when it comes to
Yeah,
content creation, people use AI and they can actually create content within a couple of minutes, right?
that's true.
Um, so, AI has made it easier and faster to create outcome, to create content, but we should all know that creating content is not the main thing, right? So
Indeed.
AI helps people to create things faster, but it doesn't help with um, creating a content that is unique, that is actually can be used in order to connect you with your audience, right? So I would say be very careful when it comes to using AI. It's a powerful tool. I would definitely recommend people to consider AI. So we shouldn't be afraid of AI. AI is a powerful tool. We should actually use it in our advantage, right? So AI can actually help with saving lots of time when it comes to
Indeed.
like creating content. But I would say the impact of AI. So basically, the impact is we see that lots of contents that are created, but they're generic, right?
Yes,
So it
generated
happens when
contents.
exactly. So people create using AI create content, but the content is very generic. It doesn't have any depth. So they are not getting anywhere. So I would say if you use AI as a powerful tool to save your time, to actually have more time to think, to be creative, then um, that actually helps with coming up, coming up with something very good and very new to be used in promoting yourself on social media.
I see. So, utilizing AI as a powerful tool to help you boost personal branding is actually wonderful as long as it is used as a tool and not purely used as generating content, because that's
Mm,
where the human part comes in, the ideation, the creativity, the personal touch of humanity that makes people engaged.
exactly. That's right.
Lastly, for those who are interested in leveraging social media for personal
Mhm.
branding and income generation, what are some key areas they should build foundational knowledge in?
Um, so I would say consistency. So when it comes to um, building your personal brand, uh, being consistent in terms of generating content, engaging with your audience, um, and trying to actively communicate with your audience. So that consistency is quite key. Um, mm, what are the other things?
Maybe in terms of media and law and taxation, that
Right. Yeah, okay. Yes. 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 True. So, like other thing that people should consider is media law. So basically, the copyright is quite important, right? So you don't want
yes.
to actually create something and then that actually, instead of help you to build your identity, build your personal brand, you don't want that to actually create problem for you, right? So you may actually use some photos, pictures, or videos, and you can integrate it in the content that you create. And if you're not aware of the copyright rules and laws, that could end up in a disaster, right? So I would say, when it comes to content creation, familiarize yourself with this copyright um, rules and media law. So you know what to use, how to use it, and if you're using information from other sources, you make sure that using them in your content that wouldn't actually create some side effects for you, right? And in terms of taxation, I would say when it comes to generating some income, it's quite important to know how to um, report that. Not reporting, but I think it's about understanding your country's taxation rules, right? So um, some people think it's not important, and then their social media or the personal branding grows, and then it becomes a main income, and without properly understanding how to report the tax,
Mm.
that would actually create um, some troubles for some influencers. Another important thing I would say is engaging with courses that help you with content creation. Things such
Mm.
as how you can actually visualize um, your content, how to actually tell a story to engage better with with your audience. So I think engaging with those courses are quite also important.
Interesting. That was quite an informative session. And if our listeners out there with zero followers,
Mhm.
zero confidence, what habit would you recommend practicing when attempting to build a personal brand and generate income through social media?
Well, you mentioned zero followers and zero confidence.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I think the first thing is lo- focus on what you do really well or what you're passionate about. Right. So if you identify the areas that you're passionate about and the areas that actually you are quite strong, that helps you to boost your confidence and believe in what you do. And investing on that can help you to actually create that follower base. So I would say identify the areas that you're quite passionate about, right? For example, if you are a foodie person, right? So that can be a very good start, right? So you already know, because that's your passion, that makes you in a position that you already probably know more than your friends about like different cuisines, different foods. So invest in that and try to like get better in that specific area that you're passionate about, because when you're passionate about something, you spend more time on it, you actually pay more attention to details, so you can actually start with the areas that you're passionate about or you feel like you're quite strong, and that helps you to boost your confidence, and the combination of these two actually eventually get you to create content that help you to have some followers or gain some followers in social media.
I see. So building the confidence by going out there and putting yourself out in the world.
Yes, exactly. I am focusing on the area that you're doing really well and you're passionate about.
All right. That was actually an incredible habit that we should start building, especially with someone who hasn't built a personal branding. And you have given us such an informative insight, especially in the eyes of the brand or individuals. Now we can get into the open mic segment where you have the chance to talk about anything that you're passionate about, and it doesn't have to be related to the topic. So, Jamal, the stage is yours.
Oh, thank you. So I think I mentioned that earlier, that I was quite fascinated by minimalism as interesting lifestyle, and that actually informed me about it, like inspired my one of my research projects.
Hmm.
And I quite in like fascinated about minimalism as a lifestyle, because nowadays, we are quite engaged with, or quite kind of under pressure by consuming
Hmm.
more, buying more stuff. Like, the
Yeah.
more you have, the better you are. And so minimalism actually creates this kind of space for you to actually detach yourself from all this kind of consumerism, right? So
Yeah.
from the pressure that you need to buy more, you need to actually project this picture of yourself that you're like affluent, right? So minimalism is creating that space for you to detach yourself from all these things, focus on what is important for you, what makes you happy in your life, and change the focus from having more, consuming more, to actually having less but enjoy more. So I would, I was quite fascinated about this, and I want, yeah, your audience also know that minimalism is not about going through like saving or being like not spending money and just trying to save. Minimalism is not about that. Minimalism is about valuing what you have, valuing your engagement with, you know, people around you, your engagement with even the stuff that you have, and use them, and and extract the value through using them in your everyday life. So
I see.
I would say minimalism is quite. I really enjoyed it, and I practice it, and I would recommend that to your audience to actually consider that. Um, yes,
I see. That's quite a balance, isn't it? Since we were talking about social media, generating income and affluence, and on the other hand, here you are talking about minimalism. So,
exactly.
balance. And if our listeners want to find out more about you, where should they go, Jamal?
Well, I have my a LinkedIn page, so it's if they just search by my name, they would be able to find my LinkedIn, and they can find me there.
I see. So everything will be attached below. And thank you very much for coming. It was quite an insightful podcast today. And thank you, Jamal, for coming in today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really enjoyed that, and thank you for having me.
All right, everyone, that is it for today's podcast. And I will see you on the next one. See you next time. Bye bye.
You've been listening to Wealth Pathways, the Affluent Science Insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. More episodes are available from 10 life management perspectives and can be found by searching LMSL on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and other podcasting apps available on your devices. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, share, and subscribe to our channel so that other people can find it and we can continue to provide quality content. More of our work can be found on our website at affluence.lifemanagementsciencelabs.com, where you can join our movement. I'm Marie Stella. Thanks for tuning in.